Hey everyone, I thought I would treat you to another garden tour. We're beginning at a small island in front of this property, and we have this interesting plant which is thimbleflower. It's easy to tell how it got its name. And we've got an aromatic aster just here, so it'll be blooming soon. In the back, a beautiful Baptisia specimen. And this pollinator plant is a mystery to me. It looks kind of like the flowering bits look like a snake root, or maybe I'm not sure. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments. Some black-eyed Susans, geraniums. We've got some daylilies here in the front. And this interesting ground cover. I see some tags for prairie smoke, which is a very interesting flowering plant. Along the front, some beautiful creeping phlox and threadleaf coreopsis, as well as the larger coreopsis. It may be known as an eared coreopsis. And then here, of course, we have a nice viburnum already taking on some of its autumn color. Alright, so this property has some mature trees and a lot of freshly planted trees. So this is a buckeye. This is the red flowering tree form, not the shrub, bottle brush style. And here, this is the telltale berries of Calicarpa, or the beauty berry. Very interesting and beautiful plant. And then just some evergreen arborvitae down the side of the building with some oak leaf hydrangea and a large privet hedge. This is the dentatum viburnum, arrowwood. Moving along, we've got another shrub that's taking on a hint of autumn color. This is the St. John's wort, or Hypericum. A couple of them in cultivation do really well in this region. And some seedlings there arriving. Okay, and we have some nice symmetry here with a tall arborvitae on each side and some low iris. And here almost a perfect mirror. These beautiful plants are Penstemon digitalis, which also take on a really beautiful autumn color quite early in the season, before many other plants. Another viburnum, and then we'll get into the proper corridor garden beds. This I think is a hop hornbeam. Interesting tree with a very ragged edge. Hopefully things stay in focus. And there's a shingle oak here on the property. Since it's so close, I'm going to take you over there. Interesting oak, the shingle oak. I just happen to know what those are. It would be a tough ID for me if I found one out in the wild. Alright, so we've got a low creeping thyme, I guess, and then here we have some evening primrose, and it's already flowered, and they can kind of take over. This is mixed with what look like some butterfly milkweeds, but this is the evening primrose. The grass here is prairie dropseed, and many transformations have occurred in this garden over the preceding months, But right now the star of the show is definitely a mist flower, which is this plant. A nice quilted leaf, and it's not really coming through on the camera, but a beautiful soft blue. And here's some more example of it. Hopefully the camera's picking up some of that color. And here we have a pycnanthemum. This is probably the narrow leaf mountain mint, great for pollinators, and a great blend of echinacea and those penstemons. In the back I can see the taller New England aster. And here's a 9-bark, Physocarpus. So this plant with the large leaves is a wild quinine, and there's just one more example of it here, still blooming. Almost has an Asclepias-like bloom. It holds its color and upright habit for a long time. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a goldenrod back there. So the asters and goldenrods are late season bloomers, and now we're in early September. Right? So this is an interesting plant that I've become a big fan of, and it is going to deepen into an even more beautiful autumn color. This is, it blooms much earlier in the season. That's why I'm sort of struggling to remember its name. Let me think. Oh, Indian Physic. So a very unique plant with a kind of a dainty bloom, so they work well massed, and then of course when they change color, it's fantastic. So this is a rue, Ruta graveolens, a common rue, and here we have wild petunia. And these are really stretching for the light, so I've often used them on like borders. They bloom purple, kind of late season as well. And here's some goldenrod coming in. Just get the zoom action. And a large example of New England aster, which will be blooming really soon. And then here's a calycanthus shrub, or Carolina allspice, Calycanthus floridus. And I just listened to a podcast about some of the other calycanthus. So in the back we've got Amsonia. That's the Tabernae montana, or the wider leaf. And more iris. And then I think this is the lyre leaf sage that I mentioned in another video. It's sort of like a juga. And here we have a different type of mountain mint. And really very nice standout phlox, which has been holding its color for quite some time. Garden phlox, and that one doesn't have any powdery mildew or anything. A very nice specimen. I wish you could smell this pycnanthemum. And this is a sumac. So here is a good example of Asarum, or wild ginger. Lots more of this wonderful St. John's wort. Here's an interesting plant blooming now called Dittany. It's got some scented foliage if you ever see it out in the wild. And then the most recent plant that bloomed was skullcap. So this is the seed head left over. This is the native Pachysandra, which spreads not aggressively. All right, Here we have a potentilla shrub, which can get big and blooms a yellow color, but they're not really performing well here. I think they want maybe a bit more light. Here's another wonderful plant called Indian Pink, and it has a true red color, absolutely beautiful earlier in the season. And lots more examples of the skullcap. Seed heads. And this area of the garden has a mixture of trees that are getting established. And not too much flowering at the moment, but soon enough the asters will begin showing off. This, I believe, has been described as wood mint. So I'm assuming it's a monarda of some kind, but maybe not. And a wonderful stand of black-eyed Susans, fine example. They're actually performing really well and staying pretty tidy and upright, even though they don't get a lot of sun here. And a low sedum. And here is a beautiful tiarella, which earlier in the season was fantastic. And there's a few other examples there along this portion of the border. And this very nice and tidy goldenrod, which will be taking on color soon. And finishing up with some liriope. And we're going to explore another area of the garden just this way. This is strawberry shrub, or it's also known as hearts a bursting, or wahoo, I think. And it's a euonymus, but it's not like a menace. And so these pop open, and then the berries dangle out of this broken up in heart. More calycanthus. I think this one has been called jump seed, and this was actually in the last camp in the woods and the last time I went camping. And this is a beautiful example of how it can mass together and create a very nice misty pattern. You do need quite a lot of them to get this effect. And this is deer villa, which masses together quite well and is here at the base of a tree performing quite well. And this is a wood, like a wood aster, so quite tall, performing well and offering up some late season interest. All right, and this is a spice bush. It smells fantastic, and they're also found in our native woodlands. And here we have a couple carexes. I think it's a true sedge. This one's called seersucker sedge. And I would have to kind of look up if it has any sort of a flowering structure. And a bit more of the asarum there. And in the spring when it blooms, you have to lift the leaves up. They emerge from the ground in a really interesting way, and they're fantastic plants. Oh, Lindera benzoin is the name of the spice bush. And it's wonderful. Under threat from an incoming pest, which is also supposed to be bad for sassafras. So two wonderfully scented shrubs slash trees under threat from some new pest. Watch out if you're in any zone where that might be an issue. And just here we have some more geraniums, phlox, etc. And this shrub is called Aronia. And it's a chokeberry, and there is both black and red. And apparently these are edible, although astringent, but full of nutrients. So they take a while to get established, and they can seem a bit spare. They have kind of a habit of like an amelanchier or a serviceberry, where sort of fountain-like with bare stems lower down. So, but if you can find the right spot and give them several years to establish, this is a good example with it's nicely fleshed out. It's kind of a protected spot. So anyway, thanks for joining me on this quick garden tour.